UFC Fight Night Rio, Oliveira versus Gamrot just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Luan Lacerda. I'm so happy, by the way. We're in the best timeline. Oliveira's back, but give me a second. Luan Lacerda versus Saimon Oliveira. I went with Luan Lacerda to finish this in the second round, but I said he would get it done by TKO. Saimon Oliveira is incredibly finishable. Even though Luan Lacerda is not really a finisher, Oliveira will get finished in fights if he loses them. He missed weight by 8 pounds for this. I was worried about that, but after a couple of back and forth exchanges that Luan Lacerda was getting the better of, he ended the first round on the back. He landed some good shots on the feet as well. Round 2, Saimon Oliveira hit a couple of reversals on him. Lacerda got him down in the first place. And then Luan Lacerda was on bottom and ended up tying up an armbar and submitting Saimon Oliveira in round 2 with an armbar submission. You have to cut Saimon Oliveira from the sport. He does nothing but lose. He doesn't show up in shape. He misses weight. He missed weight by 8 pounds for this fight. In his home country of Brazil, even that's not enough for him to show up in disciplined shape. Get rid of Saimon Oliveira. Great win from Luan Lacerda. We move on up the card to another fight, which was Julia Polastri versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. This was exactly what I said it would be, but I didn't say that Polastri would get the finish. I thought Kowalkiewicz would make it to a decision. But you've got to get rid of Karolina Kowalkiewicz as well, because it's like watching your nan get beaten up out there. And that is sad to say because it's rude. But it is. She's not capable of defending herself in a cage fight anymore. And I wish I wasn't correct about that, but she got hurt to the body immediately in round 1. And since then, she landed a couple of good shots. She stayed competitive in the fight. But Julia Polastri was just beaten up on Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Eventually in the third round, she started mixing it up against the cage, piecing up Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I think she hurt her with a kick to the body again in round 3 to start things off. Kowalkiewicz's whole body language just started sort of folding over. And Julia Polastri pieces her up, gets a finish. Maybe I should have said there was some value on a finish because of how old Kowalkiewicz is, but I thought she'd tough it out to a decision. But Polastri pulls off the win with seconds to go in round 3. Great win from Julia Polastri, as expected. We move on up the card. Rocha versus Stewart Nicoll. This is one of the few fights I got wrong on the card. I went with Stewart Nicoll to be able to out-grapple Rocha, and in round 1, he got a couple takedowns, and I was thinking, hold on now. We may be on our way to a Stewart Nicoll ragdolling fest. However, Merab Dvalishvili needs to tell Stewart Nicoll what his secret is, because Stewart Nicoll's a flyweight and he shot 2 takedowns in round 1 and completely gassed out and was without energy for the entire rest of the fight. I don't know how to explain this to you guys. But, you know, Merab needs to just go up to Stewart Nicoll and tell him, hey, you need to run. You need to do running. For some reason, it worked for me, but not for you. But even still, Rocha looked good. He pieced up Stewart Nicoll, stuffed a bunch of his takedowns later in the fight. I was surprised he didn't get a finish, but a lack of pop in his shots maybe explains it. But I was very surprised that he didn't get a finish over Stewart Nicoll, because it looked like Stewart Nicoll was done from halfway through the first round. He had nothing on the feet for Rocha. He tried some spinning techniques, but his stand-up was awful. And I really need to get this across. I'm not just harping on him because he lost and I picked him to win and he lost. I don't know how... You need to understand. Do you know how shit you have to be to look bad as a flyweight in the UFC on a technical level? I've seen some grappling from Stewart Nicoll on the regional scene. He was undefeated coming into the UFC where he got caught by a guillotine. But yeah, this was really bad from him. This was really, really bad. You have to be some type of shit to look technically flawed as a flyweight in the UFC. Rocha pieced him up. I wish he would have gone to the body more. I think he would have found a finish if he did that, but he headhunted a little bit. And Stewart Nicoll did have a decent chin. He's not chinny by any means, but... yeah, Rocha pieced him up, got better and better as the rounds went on. It was like a Joshua Van performance, but without the pop in his shots. So Rocha looked pretty good. Looks a bit like a Rush Holloway as well. Like a baby Holloway out there. So good job by Rocha. Proved me wrong for sure. We move on. Bia Mesquita versus Irena Alekseeva. Dude, we fucking strangled that Antifa member out cold in round 2. Easy win from Bia Mesquita. But it wasn't just the submission that was the great thing of the fight here. She dominated this fight with ground and pound. Smashed up Irena Alekseeva on the ground. And she's hot as well. This is just... We're in the best timeline, guys. Bia Mesquita looked good. She looked amazing out there, guys. Amazing takedowns. Not too good on the feet early on, but she is a grappler. And I was hyping up Bia Mesquita massively, so I'm glad that she won this because it's always sad to hype up a really talented women's prospect and then she loses to the first borderline man that she runs into in the sport. That is always tough to witness. We saw this with, not Jasmine Jasdavicius, but Yasmin Uregui was like a really hyped up prospect, but then some like borderline man just knocks her out easily and then subs her. So that's always worrying, but Bia Mesquita's got really good grappling, but she didn't really go for too many submissions early in this fight. She was beating up on Irena Alekseeva with ground and pound, 12-6 elbows. There were some great angles here when she had mount, by the way. Amazing stuff. And she was smashing down elbows. 12-6, big elbows on top, big ground and pound, 10-8 round in round 1. Ground and pound that would genuinely put Chimaev's ground and pound against DDP to shame. And that's wild to say because this is a women's MMA fight. So, yeah, amazing stuff from Bia Mesquita. Dominant performance. And her grappling looked good. Like, her chain grappling looked good. She had a single leg, mixed it into a double, got the takedown, had a little trip or a throw moment in round 1 as well. It genuinely looked like a fighter that could go on to become a good prospect at women's bantamweight. So, hopefully, she stays active and gets it done. I fancy her. We move on. Vitor Petrino versus Thomas Petersen. There was a moment in this fight where I was thinking, hold on now. Thomas Petersen might shock the world here, folks. But Vitor Petrino puts him out cold in round 3, brutally finishes him, face plants him to the canvas with a nasty combination in round 3. It was a tough watch because you kind of thought it was going to come immediately in the fight. But for some reason, after Thomas Petersen grappled with Petrino, Petrino started grappling back with him a ton. And I was thinking, dude, separate while you're fresh and score a nasty first round KO. I had Vitor Petrino by first round KO. I had Bia by submission. I think this would make me 4-1 on the card overall. I had Vitor Petrino by first round TKO. And he was grappling heavy back with Petersen. I was thinking, you're going to gas yourself out here. Your body type is not meant to chain wrestle against the cage against Thomas Petersen. So in round 2, it got a little bit hairy for Petrino. He was walking away from Thomas Petersen. He was kind of throwing and then taking like a 30-second breather while Petersen plodded forward like a fat mess. Literally looks like Sketch without the glasses. What's up, brother? I see you're gassing out here, brother. And he was charging forward against Petrino, trying to put some pressure on him, trying to get takedowns, but Petrino's takedown defense was good, and Petersen couldn't really maintain top position. It was one of those fights, yeah, and I mean this with as least respect as possible. I mean this to be disrespectful. I don't ever want to hear that these guys deserve NBA or NFL level pay. Petrino's actually one of the good athletes in the heavyweight division. And they both look like fucking shit for 2 rounds. These guys do not deserve hundreds of thousands of pounds to fight. I'm sorry. It's just how it is. Some fighters do deserve 12 for 12. You're not good at what you do. Petrino had a nasty KO though. And he was close with some combos early on. But Petersen ate some shots pretty well. He's a tough dude. But in that combo at the end, shovel uppercut, left hook, put down Petersen, face plant KO. And then the follow-up shots were so nasty as well. Vitor Petrino puts him out in round 3. But there were some hairy moments where it looked like Petrino was going to start losing momentum. But Petersen also didn't have the cardio to push once that started happening. And then once Petrino got sort of his energy back in the corner for the start of round 3, he took full advantage of it and slept Petersen badly. So good win by Petrino, but it wasn't a good win. It was a nasty finish. But it was a bad look in terms of how he's going to do moving forward. We move on. Up the card, Jafel Filho versus Clayton Carpenter. This was evens in odds. I took Jafel Filho by submission. I told you. This guy was up 2-0 against Makayev. Nearly had him in some really nasty submissions. Clayton Carpenter is not Makayev. Simple as that. Jafel Filho's pretty underrated, man. They were playing on the feet a little bit early on. Carpenter caught Filho with a shot. Filho stung him with a 1-2 down the pipe that like wobbled him for a second, and then he started pushing forward. Eventually, Carpenter got the center of the octagon and pushed Filho up against the cage. Looked like he kind of shocked him with a shot up against the cage there. Shot in. Filho nearly had a submission. He had the back early, I'm pretty sure. He found his way to the back on Clayton Carpenter, but Carpenter survived for a while defending a rear naked choke. And then, I don't even remember. Oh, I do remember what happened. Filho had the back for a while, and he was doing very good, but Carpenter did a very good job of breaking the body triangle of Jafel Filho. Eventually spinning out and ending up on top with like a minute left to go in the round. Landed a couple of big elbows, but then Jafel Filho got a Kimura from bottom position, and it was in. And Carpenter, I guess, was thinking, I'm in top position, I'll just stay here. But Filho had such a nasty crank on that Kimura. He rolled Carpenter all the way over with it and subbed him with one of the nastiest Kimuras I've seen, until what Diniz escaped in round 1 of the Pinto fight, by the way. But Jafel Filho, nasty submission win in round 1. I had him to win by submission, and he pulled it off by submission. We go 4-1 on the card overall. We move on. Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell Jr. I had Lucas Almeida to win in the prediction video. I swapped my pick to Michael Aswell Jr. because I saw what everyone saw. Lucas Almeida had a blatantly broken hand at the weigh-in. Must have showed up for a check. I don't know why he showed up. He did not throw his right hand at all. Maybe he thought they wouldn't offer him another fight, and it's in Brazil, so he's going to gamble it on the odds that he gets a head kick KO or something like that. But Michael Aswell wasn't playing around, and he had 2 hands to work with. And I was saying in the middle of the fight, Almeida's going to get stung with the 2 down the pipe. Aswell smacks him with the 2 over and over again because Almeida can't throw right hands. He's trying to, and if he throws his lead, he's wide open. So he's completely defenseless, one-handed on the feet. And Aswell just kept stinging him with a 2 down the pipe. The stoppage was wildly late. Because I didn't care about Almeida, I wasn't that angry about it. But it really does make you think about certain stoppages that we've seen in the sport, where we see like world champions not being given that much time to recover, while Almeida needs to get dropped 3 times over in round 1. Follow-up shots on the ground over and over again, and then Herzog's thinking about stepping in. It is interesting to think about sometimes. I don't mind having fighters get a little bit of a chance. This ain't a championship bout where everything's on the line. This is a prelim bout with Lucas Almeida. Call it off, ref. After that second knockdown or whatever it was, call it off there. He's done. Michael Aswell Jr., though, nasty win. He can only fight what's in front of him. Good straight right hands. I'm glad I switched to him and saw the broken hand of Almeida. But maybe I would have switched to him anyway, because I don't know if Almeida would have pulled that off regardless. Aswell looked pretty sharp regardless. And he leaked Pantoja versus Van for December. So thank you, Michael Aswell. I was wondering what was going to be on that card, but it turns out it's Pantoja versus Van on the December pay-per-view card. So thank you, man. We move on. Now, guys, I am a genius. It is true. We went 5-1 on the prelims. I then went 6-1 with a big Kaan Offley underdog pick. People called me crazy, chat. How you picking Kaan Offley? He's terrible. Ricardo Ramos should be on a 6-fight losing streak in the UFC. He should now be cut from the UFC. I will say this, though. Even though I was correct, Kaan Offley is a cheater. He grabbed the cage 3 times in that fight. I picked Kaan Offley to win as a decently sized. I think he was a 2-1 underdog here. Because I thought he was a bit underrated, and his grappling is good and his pressure's good and he's very hard to finish. And there's an Australian factor as well. Bar Stewart, Nicoll. They're all pretty good at fighting these days. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go with Kaan Offley here. I don't think Ricardo Ramos is any good whatsoever, whereas I think Kaan Offley, Naimov's a tough test. Naimov is a tough fight to win against, and he made it pretty close. Got chinned by Mayron Santos on The Ultimate Fighter, but he is pretty good bar that. I actually thought on The Ultimate Fighter, this guy's going to win. But then when I saw Mayron Santos, I thought, never mind, he'll probably get slept by Mayron. Ended up happening anyway. But Ricardo Ramos, man, had a really nasty leg kick. We got to talk about the cheating. Nasty leg lock, in round 1. Both guys landed a punch each or so. Ramos goes for the leg in a grappling entanglement. He has the leg in some really nasty spots. Offley keeps his balance once with the cage grab and uses it to spin out and save himself from some nasty position. Probably could have done it without the cage grab anyway, by the way. But still, Ricardo Ramos stays on the leg, tries to topple Offley over with the leg lock attack. Offley keeps himself standing with a cage grab. Then Ramos tries to sort of scramble to the back of Offley. Offley grabs the cage to spin himself around and face Ramos to where he then gets the back. And that's where he finishes the fight from. Rear naked choke, Kaan Offley, round 1. He was very emotional and I picked him to win, but he did cage grab 3 different times in the space of 2 minutes, a minute and a half of the grappling sequence that they had, a cage grab per 30 seconds that drastically altered every situation. I thought he would have won anyway. I'm going to take the cheating working for me and my picks for once, but he definitely cheated a bunch. But you do have to cut Ricardo Ramos. This, with the Kalibao robbery aside, this is 7 losses in a row. Why is he still here? We move on. Jonata Diniz versus Mario Pinto. Wrong again. Second time on the card, I was wrong. I thought this was going to be a striking match, but Pinto showed levels to his game. We'll talk about the post-fight speech afterwards. Pinto showed levels to his game. Grappling. I know he had some grappling, but I thought, you know, is it good enough to just neutralize a Jonata Diniz? I should have considered it a bit more. I thought Diniz would have a stand-up advantage, and we never really got to see it because Pinto was right on him on the takedown. Round 1 was dominant from him. We can talk about the fact that he nearly had him in like an arm lock in round 1. Pinto did, and it should have been done. I have no idea how Diniz's arm did not snap off. I was wincing like, oh, it's going to snap. He's not tapping. It's going to snap. And Diniz somehow escaped the position. Decent for a heavyweight in terms of scrambling, but unfortunately, even though he had the ability to shuck Pinto off of him, once he escaped mount and being mounted and having his arm twisted up in that position, he didn't have the athleticism or the grappling to get himself back up to his feet. So Pinto would lose mount due to a scramble and then wind up right back in mount. He would lose the submission and it looked like Diniz could end up on top. But then Pinto would end up on the back of Jonata Diniz with control. And then instead of Diniz standing up like a Derek Lewis potentially could, he would just sort of flop forward like a fat walrus. And he just didn't really have the athleticism to pop back up to his feet after the initial escape. Like, he didn't have 2 explosions in him. He had 1, and then that was it for the next 30 seconds. And then Pinto would reclaim position, beat the hell out of Diniz with elbows on top. Nasty stuff. Round 2, similar situation, got the takedown again on Diniz. Diniz had an early stuff of a takedown, but Pinto kept grappling, took him down again. Had some good moments on top in round 2, beating up on Jonata Diniz, finished him at the end of the round. It was kind of uneventful because Diniz wasn't KO'd, but you saw it coming from Pinto, so I wasn't going wild for the finish or anything, but it was a brutal TKO stoppage, and he showed good grappling. I think Pinto's a good prospect. I was wrong about him. He's a great prospect and capitalized on the mic for sure. I was even saying it in the build-up. People are saying he's Portuguese. I was like, yeah, he's from Portugal. The guy's got the thickest London accent you'll ever hear. I was even tweeting like, why is he not... He said in his post-fight speech, I not speak English, to Michael Bisping. And I was thinking, this guy has the thickest London accent you will ever hear. He did it in one of his last fights where I thought, this guy's Portuguese. I wonder what he's going to say on the mic. And he went, yeah, you know, bish, bash, bosh. I went out there, I did my thing, you know. And it was a great performance and that. And he started talking like that. And I was thinking, oh my God, this guy ain't fucking Portuguese. He's repping the Portugal flag. But this is a Londoner. Yeah, I mean, this guy's born and raised in London by the sounds of things. Thick London accent. And then he starts talking in Portuguese the whole time. Wins over the crowd a bit in Portuguese after some early boos because he's not their guy, of course. But then Pinto's doing all this I don't speak English thing. And he says, I don't know English too much. I'm going to try my best to speak English. And he goes, shout out to my team for putting in the graveyard shift and that. Really putting in for me, you know, did a great training camp with my team in London. Big up to my team in London. You know, we put in a lot of work for this and all of that. And he's just giving the most blatant London accent you've ever heard. Great post-fight moment. I was laughing. It's not often something makes me properly laugh that isn't someone like getting KO'd that's like fat or something. That really makes me laugh sometimes. But it's not often someone makes me laugh with a post-fight speech beyond like Manny Moicano or something, you know. So Or like Radke saying it again. One day he will. We always hope for it. Or Manel Cap going off. But Mario Pinto genuinely made me laugh. So great win. Showed that he's ready for the rankings. Take your time. He's only young. He can only get better. But I think he beats Tybura right now. And although that might sound like an obvious thing to say, for heavyweight prospects, that's always a worry. Like, are they going to be able to beat Marcin Tybura? I don't know about a Spivak yet. So chill. But he would beat a Tybura right now, I reckon. With the grappling that he showed, normally Tybura takes advantage of a deficiency. And Pinto doesn't seem to have a deficiency in his game. Do I think he's going to be a world champion? No. But I think Pinto will be a staple of the top 10 in the heavyweight division for many years to come. I just don't think he's got that proper fast switch danger factor to really smoke people in the first minute like a Tom Aspinall. Or I don't think he's got the movement of a Cyril Gane. So he looked good, but give him some time to breathe and then we'll move on. But yeah, he had a crazy moment on the mic, which I thought was good. And he's definitely going to get some virality out of that because that was a great moment. We move on. What a mess this fight was. Vicente Luque versus Joel Alvarez. I picked Joel Alvarez to win. He won. He won very clearly. The third round was very uneventful. Joel Alvarez took this fight on like 2 weeks' notice, okay? Upper weight class against Vicente Luque. But we've always thought that Joel Alvarez should have been a welterweight anyway, so I imagine he felt right at home in the weight class. Round 1, he legally finishes Vicente Luque. I don't know why referees and judges in MMA are routinely the dumbest people involved in every event that we have. But they are. They are the dumbest people in the world. If you had to tell me what job has the dumbest people you've ever seen, I would say referees in MMA. I'd say judges in MMA. These people are fucking retarded. Commentators as well. We talk about Bisping's commentary in this fight, but let me talk about this first. Joel Alvarez is stinging Luque with jabs. Luque's trying to crack him over the top. And Luque does look sharp. He's not looking washed early. He's looking sharp. He's landing good low kicks. Joel's stinging him with jabs over and over again. And he catches Luque with a lead hook. And lands it with the thumb and the front knuckle in the eye of Luque. Luque looks to the ref. And then the ref says, time, eye poke. And Luque sinks to the ground. That's a TKO win for Joel Alvarez. It's a TKO win for Joel Alvarez. They ruined his 100% finish rate for that shit. Dumbass ref. The ref calls it off. Waves his hand above his head. No, we're calling it off. This is bad. Doesn't go with that because he doesn't realize waving his hands over the top of his head actually means the fight's over, you idiot. You're a ref. You should know that. We're watching a replay. Why is the ref not being told by someone it wasn't an eye poke? He gave Luque like 3 minutes of recovery time in round 1 for something that the audience knew from 10 seconds after it happened was a legal blow. Alvarez knew it. And Alvarez saw the guy wave it off and thought, I've won. Had a bit of an adrenaline dump. He got a legal finish over Luque. An absolutely perfectly fine finish. Then he started continuing the jab in round 1. Luque's eyes start swelling shut. Luque had his prime chin for this one, by the way, because he took a massive beating in round 2. I actually called a moment in this where Joel threw a flying knee. Well, I love moments like that, where I can see what someone's going to do. I don't know how I knew it, but I knew he was going to throw a flying knee. I want that clipped, okay? That's what I want to see. But Joel Alvarez put a whooping on Luque in round 2. Stinging him on the feet again. Was still getting hit with some decent shots, but took him well at 170. Stinging Luque on the feet with his jab. It was the jab. Over and over again. Stinging him in the face. Stinging him in the eye with the jab over and over. Luque ends up shooting on him, I'm pretty sure, at one point. Joel Alvarez gets control. Beats up on Luque. 10-8 round in round 2 for like 4 minutes of the round. He is on top of Luque. Smashing him in the head with punches. Mashing him to the body with elbows to like the back ribs of Luque and all of this. He's going off on Luque in round 2. So much so, I think he gassed himself out because he could have been just there breathing. Luque's got 2-on-1 wrist control and Joel was just punching with the free hand and elbowing with the free hand. He was even elbowing the thigh of Luque at one point. He couldn't get dominant position. He couldn't get mount or the back take. He couldn't get hooks in on the back or anything like that because Luque was too tucked up. But he whooped on Luque to a 10-8 round in round 2. And then round 3 was a weird one because they ended up in a position where he was stinging Luque with some shots. Luque shot in again. Alvarez had him in like an inverted triangle for no joke 3.5 minutes at the end of round 3, and nothing happened. So it was a great first round from Alvarez that should have been a first round finish. Didn't get it. Round 2, he 10-8s the fuck out of Luque and beats up on him. Doesn't get the finish. Luque's prime chin is back. Round 3, Luque shoots in a 1.5 minutes in. Inverted triangle for the rest of the round. For the rest of the round, he's in that triangle position. And only for the last 10 seconds did Alvarez free up his other hand and start punching the body and really start pouring it on. I think he was conserving energy because he did take it on short notice and he had an adrenaline dump in round 1, 10-8 in round 2 to no finish. So he really did put on a hell of a pace. But it was kind of ruined by that round 3 weirdness at the end. But also ruined by the referee's dumbass in round 1 for not calling that a TKO win. That would have been a finish for Alvarez in round 1. Ton of hype. Keeps his 100% finish streak. But you know what? They ruined it. It is what it is. Joel Alvarez gets the win over Luque. And Michael Bisping was on commentary arguing with John Gooden saying, let me finish. Let me finish talking then. And Bisping is... Dude. Bisping's ego. He thinks he's like the top dog commentator when people like Paul Felder and John Gooden are also on commentary. You're the shittest one out of all of them. Winds your fucking neck in sometimes. I feel like Bisping is constantly in the shadow of Joe Rogan and DC, even though that Joe Rogan's one of the worst as well. But he's always with someone who's a bigger commentary status than him. John Anik, DC. He would not say, let me finish to John Anik ever in his fucking life, and he knows it. Never in a million years would he say that. Bisping is yammering on the entire night of commentary about bullshit, spending 2 minutes to discuss something, while Joel Alvarez, John Gooden said something, he tried to chime in, as Joel Alvarez flying kneed Luque in the face flush in round 2, and Bisping's like, let me finish! And we're still talking about the round 1 controversy. It's another round started. Alvarez is beating up on Luque to a 10-8 round. You're yapping for 2 minutes about fucking nothing. Bisping needs to wind his fucking neck in when he's on commentary and he thinks he's the big dog. You're not the big dog on commentary. God, man. He doesn't act like that around others. Sometimes he'll yap at Cruz, but it's more of a friendly banter between them. But tonight, he tried to steal the show and lead as like the big shot on commentary. He's the leader of the commentary. He's the big name. And technically he is. But he ruined the whole fucking thing. Every time I listened to the commentary, I was like, what the fuck is Bisping talking about for 2 minutes on end? While an entire fight is playing out. No play-by-play, no nothing. No reaction to anything landing, no nothing. Yapping about bullshit. He even made Aldo's retirement about him. Aldo's doing his retirement thing, and Bisping was like, I never had this moment when I was retiring, but that's all right. I never got the moment in the UK to put my gloves down. And he's making Aldo's fucking retirement in Rio de Janeiro about him. By the way, Aldo's retirement, great. I'm glad for it. But Michael Bisping, man. I'm really glad for Jose Aldo's retirement. He never got that moment in Canada, I think it was, against Damien Zahabi. I think he wouldn't have retired if he won. He probably would be on this Rio card, but he took that damage in round 3 and called it quits there. I'm glad that Aldo didn't get less of a retirement ceremony than Michelle fucking Waterson in the end. All things are restored. We move on. Montel Jackson versus Davison Figueiredo. Now, I was wrong about this one. I picked Montel Jackson to win. This was one of the only few I was wrong about again. I think I got 3 wrong on the card. I went 9-3. Got a ton of underdogs. Not this one, though. I did say Figueiredo at plus 300 is fucking insane. He should be like a 2-1 underdog, slightly underdog against Montel Jackson. What were the stats in round 2? I thought Montel Jackson won the fight. Maybe. But I understand how they could go Figueiredo's way because he nearly had him in an arm triangle in round 2. But I thought this was a fight that could have gone Montel Jackson's way. But Figgy made it so close, and it was a shit fight. Let's just call it what it was. It was a dog shit fight. Neither guy really wanted to pull the trigger. Figueiredo's grappling looked great, but he never really got any points out of it. Like, he didn't have any locked-in submissions. He nearly had an arm triangle in round 2, which I guess is why they gave him the round. But he cracked Jackson with a punch at the end of round 1 that seemed to stumble him. I thought that gave Figueiredo the round. Plus he had a takedown early there as well. But Montel Jackson gambled, and this is the lowest IQ thing I've ever seen. Slightly more output, he just wins that fight. But instead, he chose to gamble a split decision against Davis and Figueiredo in fucking Brazil. You are in Brazil, and you are more than happy to gamble a 50-50 split decision that I think could have gone your way, but it's not a robbery. You just simply didn't do it. He could have landed an extra strike or two more and really made sure he got that win. But no. He'd rather gamble a razor-close split decision 29-28. I had him winning a 29-28 decision. My prediction anyway. But I can see why they gave it to Figueiredo. I will say, though, round 2 significant strikes. I even said this during the live. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he doubled Figueiredo in this round. And this was the deciding round. And he did. 14-7 on significant strikes. Figueiredo had a takedown at one point. He got side control. He got mount. He nearly had an arm triangle, but Montel Jackson escaped it. So I guess that's what they're weighing in, because nothing really of what Montel Jackson landed was anything too nasty and like crazy. Like he just popped Figueiredo a couple of times more than Figueiredo did him. But this was a really lousy fight between the pair of them. Figueiredo's grappling is looking improved recently in his career. And Jackson just let himself lose and gambled a 50-50 rather than risking anything and potentially scoring himself the win easily by decision here against a Figueiredo that really wasn't doing too much, because he didn't have to do much because Jackson weren't doing anything. Figgy would win the first 2 minutes of the round in the grappling, and then Jackson would like try and outland him by like 4 strikes and think that's going to get him the round back, and Figueiredo didn't even have to push. So he also gambled it as well, but he's the older guy. He's in Brazil. It's his home turf. You got to do a little more. I thought Jackson won slightly, but I'm not that mad about it. It wasn't clear. Not much happened of anything. You got to make something a bit more happen than that. I gave round 3 to Montel Jackson. I thought he clearly landed the better shots in the third. Plus, he got a takedown in the third round as well. Round 1, I gave to Figueiredo. I wouldn't have given it to him until the end. He had a good takedown moment, but I thought Jackson was landing some of the better shots. But then Figueiredo actually cracked him with a right hand that kind of stumbled him for a second. So I was like, okay, Figueiredo round 1, Figueiredo round 2 if you want to give him the arm triangle, but Jackson landed more. So I had this to Jackson, but you're gambling a split decision in Brazil against Figueiredo. Very low fight IQ. But Figgy's back off a win, and Marab called him out, saying, I'm waiting for you next. If that don't tell you how dead this division is now, I don't know what will. But yeah, Figueiredo back in a win column. Wasn't exciting. He pointed to the ground at the end of the fight, and Jackson didn't throw anything. And then Figueiredo shot a single leg and failed it. Don't do the Holloway thing if you're not going to do Holloway shit. Please, for the love of God. We move on. Charles do Bronx, Charles do Bronx, do Brazil, Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. I said Charles Oliveira by round 2 submission, and Charles Oliveira pulled off the round 2 submission. He looked great in this fight, man. And I really wanted to see grappling here, and we saw great grappling. And it goes to show that with a certain caliber of Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist, there is a place for Brazilian jiu-jitsu in MMA, but it must be paired with now the improved takedown entries of Charles Oliveira. Round 1. Gamrot's doing okay. Oliveira's doing okay. Oliveira's landing the better shots on the feet on Gamrot. He's landing kicks to the body, low kicks on Gamrot. And Gamrot's shots, I think Oliveira immediately knew, this guy don't hit like Tapuria. I can take this. I can walk him down. And he started getting confident in the round. They scramble around on the ground in round 1. Gamrot takes down Oliveira with his head on the outside. I was panicking, thinking, oh my God, he's going to get guillotined in round 1 immediately here for shooting with his head on the outside. But Oliveira got thrown off balance. Immediately, he's wrapping up triangles and arms and all of this, and he's trying to pin the arm of Gamrot into a really awkward position. And Gamrot's scrambling out of it. It was like the same position he was in against Garam Kutsteledze. I think it's like an omoplata or some shit. He's tied up his arm in this crazy position. It's not a submittable moment, but if Gamrot tries to get his head in, he can get triangled. And if he doesn't adjust to it, Oliveira can use it to get somewhere, sit up and break his arm into a bit of a Kimura position. And so it was a really tricky position for Gamrot. He kind of had to stay put where he was and try and escape it by getting his legs over the top of Oliveira. And he did, to which Oliveira took the back. So they were tangled up in the ground with some fun scrambles in round 1. And then Oliveira took the back from it and nearly had a rear naked over Gamrot. But Gamrot, to be fair, defended very well against a rear naked in round 1 and took Oliveira to round 2. Round 2, Gamrot was doing all right on the feet in round 2. But Oliveira, you could see it on him. He did not think he could be KO'd by Gamrot, and he was correct. Gamrot was swinging shots, 1-1-2 down the pipe, and Oliveira was just accepting it. It's not like he was moving or trying to crack him back with an elbow as he came in, like he was trying to do with Ilya. He seemed to understand that with a high and tight guard, Gamrot doesn't have the power to KO him. And Gamrot was swinging right hooks around the guard. He stung Oliveira a few times in round 2. I want to say on like 3 occasions I was like, oh, big shot from Gamrot, but Oliveira would land back. He landed a big elbow in round 2, a front kick to the body, a good punch with a straight right hand as well. But Gamrot was doing good on the feet at the start of round 2, but Oliveira was walking him down, and Gamrot is scarpering because he can't get respect. And he can't shoot off the panic because that's where you get guillotined by Oliveira. So he's kind of stuck on the feet. Against Dan Hooker, he can shoot in and change it up. And it's not as risky. Against other fighters, he can shoot in from being on the back foot and mix it up, and it's not as risky. Oliveira is not someone you can panic shoot on. So Oliveira had him scarpering, had him panicked. Got the takedown on Gamrot, shot in first. Amazing takedown from Oliveira. Something he's massively improved in is his offensive wrestling since the Makhachev loss. Saw it in the Chandler fight early. Even though he nearly got finished in round 5, the way he was shooting in takedowns and taking down Chandler was very impressive. Normally, we see Oliveira shoot in, fail, and then look to get the back from it. But nowadays, we're seeing him actually pick up people and dunk them a lot more often. So he took down Gamrot. Gamrot used the wizard to sort of like survive it for a moment. But then Oliveira scoots around to the back. And once Oliveira's in that position on you, man, it's tough. You ain't escaping with Oliveira on your back. Stays on it. Gamrot defends for a while, but eventually the rear naked choke is across the jaw. Gamrot spent a long time tucking his jaw and fighting hands, and Oliveira wasn't really going for things. He wanted it under the neck, but he couldn't quite get it. But this time he just put it over the jaw on Gamrot, and Gamrot kind of was like, I'm good here, but Oliveira just cinched it up, squeezed like crazy in round 2, got the submission win. We are so back. Oliveira is not on a slide. He's going to be on a Paramount pay-per-view card. He called out Max Holloway for the BMF belt. It's truly wonderful. The timeline that we're in is truly wonderful. Oliveira is looking like his vintage self after being KO'd 3 months ago. I was worried how that was going to turn out. But he ended up getting the win. And you know what, for Gamrot, not a good look to get finished by Oliveira, but a lot of people get finished by Oliveira, to be fair. But he did take the fight on like a week and a half's notice, flew to Poland, to America, to Brazil. And he even ran out at one point on the way to the cage and nearly ran into a cameraman and then ran into the barriers. Like, he was fired up for this. Like, he was genuinely like amped up and tense and ready to go. But Oliveira is just a master, man. Master at getting to the back. And I think we saw a bit of this. This is why I picked Oliveira to win. Against Dariush, Gamrot would take him down, but then Dariush would spin him up in some kind of like trap. End up scrambling back to his feet, or put Gamrot in like a panic position to where he had to escape some kind of grappling. Oliveira is going to get you in that panic position and take advantage of it. And I took Oliveira by round 2 submission. He pulled off the round 2 submission. Charles Oliveira is back in the mix. And life is good once again. And Gamrot gets paid, even though it didn't go the way you want it to. So he sure got paid for that, and I'm sure the UFC likes that you did them that favor. So we'll see what's next for Gamrot, but the weird thing about this is I don't know what's next for Oliveira. He called out Holloway, and I think he'll get it, but then what's next for Pimlet? Pimlet has lost out of all of this. Unless Pimlet's fighting Topuria, or they're waiting to see if Arman beats Hooker, in which case they'll do Topuria versus Arman and then do Gaethje versus Pimlet. Pimlet's maybe lost out here. If they do book Topuria Gaethje, which they are planning on doing, I think they're waiting to see what Arman does to Dan Hooker, though. If Arman finishes Dan Hooker early and then wants to turn around in January to fight Ilya, I think they will book that fight instead and maybe make Gaethje versus Pimlet. But if he doesn't and can't make the turnaround, or if Dan Hooker somehow pulls off an upset, Pimlet went from looking at, he has all the options of Holloway, of Oliveira, of these Arman, of Gaethje, all of these names. So all of a sudden, Pimlet's got to fight the winner of Dariush versus Benoit Saint-Denis, or, you know, one of these matchups instead, or Fiziev. So, yeah, he really lost out here unless Arman steals that shot in November. But Charles Oliveira's back. He's back in the mix. And he wants to fight for the BMF belt against Holloway. I say put that on the second Paramount card of the year. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. I went 9-3 on picks. I got a bunch of underdogs. Of the ones I got correct, what I get? I got Oliveira round 2 submission. I didn't get Figueiredo. I had Montel Jackson 29-28. It was a split decision, to be fair, and he could have got it. Alvarez by finish. Kind of got robbed of that, but I picked Alvarez to win. Diniz I was wrong about. Awfully underdog. I'll take it. People call me crazy. I'll take the awfully underdog pick. Switched to Aswell Jr. Thank God I saw the hand of Almeida at the weigh-in, so I got that one correct by TKO. Filho submission. That was 50-50. I got that one. Petrino win, of course. Mesquita submission, of course. Lucas Rocha I got wrong, but Polastri and Lacerda I got correct, and I got a finish for Lacerda in round 2, so another good night of predictions with a lot of underdogs. So like and subscribe. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Charles do Bronx e do Brasil. Charles. Sorry, I'll stop. But I can't stop. We're in the best timeline possible. Goodbye. Now it's time for JDM and Tom. Please. See you later.